Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars through the main window. The Aurora's Edge was 3 months into a deep space mission, and Jake felt good about the work they were doing. His crew had mapped 12 new star systems and found 3 planets that might be good for human colonies someday. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Most of his crew was sleeping during the night shift, but Jake liked to walk around the ship when everyone else was resting. It helped him think about their mission and plan for the next day. Dr. Lisa Campbell was still awake in her lab, looking at rock samples from their last planet visit. She was the best scientist Jake had ever worked with, always finding interesting things that other people missed. Her coffee cup sat next to her computer, and Jake could smell the strong brew from the doorway. "Find anything good, Lisa?" Jake asked as he entered the lab. Lisa looked up from her microscope and smiled. "These crystals have a structure I have never seen before. They might be useful for making better computer chips back on Earth." Jake nodded and continued his walk through the ship. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Ryan Parker was running tests on their jump drive. Ryan was young but very smart with machines. He could fix anything on the ship and often made improvements that the original designers never thought of. "How are we looking, Ryan?" Jake asked. "All systems are running perfectly, Captain. The new power routing I installed last week is working. Great. We should have no problems jumping to the next system." Jake made his way to the communications center where Amy Rodriguez was monitoring space traffic. Amy had the best ears on the ship and could pick up signals that other people missed. She was listening to something through her headphones and had a confused look on her face. "Captain, I am getting some strange readings from the Kepler 442 system. It looks like there might be artificial signals coming from there." Jake felt his heart beat faster. Artificial signals could mean only one thing. Someone else was out there. In all of human history, they had never found proof of other intelligent life in the universe. "Are you sure it is not just natural space noise?" Jake asked. Amy shook her head. "No, sir. This is definitely artificial. The pattern is too regular to be natural. It is coming from orbit around the second planet in that system." Jake thought for a moment. They were supposed to survey 3 more systems before heading back to Earth, but this discovery could change everything. "Set course for Kepler 442. Wake up the senior staff and tell them we have a situation." The next few hours passed quickly as the crew prepared for what might be the most important discovery in human history. Dr. Campbell packed her best analysis equipment, while Ryan made sure all ship systems were working perfectly. Amy worked on improving their communication array to get better readings of the mysterious signals. When they arrived at the Kepler 442 system, what they found took their breath away. Orbiting the second planet was a massive structure unlike anything humans had ever built. It was shaped like a long cylinder with strange geometric patterns covering its surface. Energy readings showed it was definitely artificial and still active. "My God," whispered Dr. Campbell as she stared at the sensor readings. "It is over 5 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. The materials are unlike anything in our databases." Jake ordered the ship to move closer, but carefully. They did not know if whoever built this structure was still around, or if it might be dangerous. As they got closer, more details became visible on their screens. The structure had what looked like sensor arrays pointing in all directions. Strange lights blinked in patterns along its surface. Most impressive of all, it seemed to be scanning their ship with invisible beams of energy. "Captain," Amy called out from her station, "I am picking up new transmissions. The structure is sending a message somewhere else in the galaxy. The signal is very powerful and very fast. Ryan checked his instruments and found something even more interesting. "Captain, this thing has been here for a very long time. Energy signatures suggest it has been active for thousands of years, maybe longer." Dr. Campbell was practically jumping with excitement as she analyzed the data. "The technology is far beyond anything we have. The power source alone must be incredibly advanced. This could change everything we know about physics and engineering." Jake realized they needed to be very careful. If this structure belonged to an alien civilization, their discovery might have already been reported to its builders. Humanity might soon have visitors, and they had no idea if those visitors would be friendly. "Amy, try to communicate with the structure. Send basic mathematical sequences and see if it responds." "Ryan, I want our jump drive ready to go at a moment's notice. If something comes through that we cannot handle, we need to be able to run." Amy worked on her communications while the rest of the crew continued studying the alien structure. Hours passed with no response to their signals, but the structure continued sending its own messages into deep space. "Captain," Dr. Campbell said quietly, "I think this might be a monitoring station. It has been watching this part of space for a very long time. When we showed up, it probably sent a report to whoever built it." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If she was right, then humanity had just announced its presence to an alien civilization. Their species had been hidden and safe among the stars, but now that was about to change. "How long before the message reaches its destination?" Jake asked. Amy did some quick calculations. "Based on the signal strength and direction, I would guess it is going to a star system about 50 light-years away. Even with their advanced technology, any response would take months to get here." Jake made a decision that would change human history forever. "We are going back to Earth immediately. Humanity needs to know what we found here, and our leaders need time to prepare for what might be coming." As the Aurora's Edge prepared to jump back to human space, none of the crew realized the full importance of what had just happened. They had found proof that humanity was not alone in the universe, but they had also triggered a chain of events that would challenge everything their species believed about its place among the stars. The alien monitoring station continued its work, sending detailed reports about the human ship back to its creators. For the first time in human history, other intelligent beings knew about Earth and its people. The age of human isolation was over, and whatever came next would test their species in ways they could never imagine. Jake looked back at the alien structure one last time before they jumped to hyperspace. He wondered what kind of beings had built it, and what they would think of humanity when they learned about Earth. He hoped they would be peaceful, but he knew his species needed to prepare for any possibility. The jump to hyperspace began, and the alien structure disappeared from view. Behind them, the monitoring station continued its ancient duty, watching the stars and reporting on everything it saw. The message about humanity was already racing across the galaxy, carrying news that would soon change everything for both humans and aliens alike. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison and his crew discovered the alien monitoring station. The news had spread across Earth like wildfire, causing both excitement and fear among the human population. Every government on the planet was preparing for what might come next. Admiral Carlos Bennett stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the empty space beyond their solar system. As head of the United Earth Fleet, he had spent the last 3 months preparing humanity for first contact with an alien civilization. New ships were being built, weapons were being tested, and defensive positions were being strengthened around every human colony. President Helen Carter had called emergency meetings with leaders from every nation on Earth. The Global Assembly had worked day and night to create protocols for dealing with alien contact. Dr. Nathan Brooks, Earth's best expert on languages, had been working with teams of scientists to prepare for communication with beings that might think in completely different ways than humans. The wait ended on a Tuesday morning when space traffic control picked up a massive energy signature appearing at the edge of the solar system. A ship unlike anything humans had ever seen materialized from hyperspace, sleek and elegant with curves that seemed to flow like water. "Admiral Bennett," called out Lieutenant Pete Harrison from his station, "we have an incoming transmission from the alien vessel. They are speaking our language." Admiral Bennett felt his heart race as he prepared to hear the first words ever spoken to humanity by another intelligent species. "Put it through on all channels." A voice filled the command center, melodic and strange, but clearly speaking English. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Theron of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome your species into the greater galactic community." President Carter arrived at the command center within an hour, along with Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Paul Davis and General Monica Walsh. The alien ambassador had requested permission to board their orbital station for face-to-face talks, and humanity's leaders needed to decide how to respond. "What do we know about this Galactic Council?" President Carter asked Dr. Brooks. "Very little," Dr. Brooks replied. "The ambassador has been willing to answer basic questions, but she says detailed discussions must wait for the formal meeting. We do know they claim to represent thousands of different species across the galaxy." Captain Troy Hudson, head of station security, had been studying the alien ship with every sensor they had. "The technology is incredible," he reported. "Their ship shows no weapons that we can detect, but their defensive systems are far beyond anything we have. If they wanted to hurt us, there would be nothing we could do to stop them." President Carter made the decision to allow Ambassador Theron to come aboard. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. We need to hear what they have to say." When Ambassador Theron stepped off her transport, the humans got their first close look at an alien being. She was tall and graceful, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her eyes were like crystals that reflected the room around her. Despite her alien appearance, her manner was calm and friendly. "Thank you for welcoming me to your station," Ambassador Theron said as she was escorted to the main conference room. "This is always an exciting moment when a new species joins the galactic community." The formal talks began with Ambassador Theron explaining the Galactic Council. She told them it was an organization that had been keeping peace across the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Thousands of different species work together under council leadership, sharing technology and resources while following common laws. "Your species has reached the point where you can travel between stars," Ambassador Theron explained. "This means you are ready to take your place among the civilized peoples of the galaxy. The Council is prepared to offer Earth membership and all the benefits that come with it." Secretary Davis leaned forward with interest. "What kind of benefits are we talking about?" Ambassador Theron smiled, showing teeth that were slightly different from human teeth, but close enough to seem familiar. "Access to advanced technology that will solve your energy and environmental problems, trade relationships with thousands of worlds, protection from hostile species that might threaten your development, knowledge that will advance your science by thousands of years." President Carter asked the question that everyone was thinking. What does the Council want in return? Simply that Earth agrees to follow galactic law and accept guidance from more experienced species, Ambassador Theron replied. Your people will be granted junior membership status while you learn how to interact properly with other civilizations. In time, perhaps in a few centuries, Earth might be ready for full membership. General Walsh exchanged a look with Admiral Bennett. The word junior did not sit well with either of them. What exactly does junior membership mean? General Walsh asked. Ambassador Theron explained that junior members had restricted travel rights, could only visit certain parts of the galaxy, and needed council approval for major decisions about technology and expansion. Junior members also had to share their research and discoveries with the Council, but would only receive limited access to Council technology in return. Dr. Grace Turner, Earth's top expert on artificial intelligence, had been quiet during most of the meeting. Finally, she spoke up. Ambassador Theron, how many species have ever refused Council membership? Ambassador Theron looked confused by the question. Refused? Why would any species refuse the protection and guidance of the Council? In 10,000 years, every species that has reached interstellar travel has been grateful to join us. Colonel Sandra Mills, who had been taking notes throughout the meeting, leaned over to whisper to Captain Hudson. They expect us to be grateful for the opportunity to become their junior partners. The talks continued for 3 days, with Ambassador Theron patiently explaining Council policies and answering human questions. The more the humans learned, the less they liked what they were hearing. The Council claimed to promote peace and cooperation, but their rules seemed designed to keep newer species in a subordinate position. On the final day of negotiations, President Carter stood up to address Ambassador Theron. The entire human leadership team was present, along with representatives from every major nation on Earth. The moment felt heavy with the weight of history. Ambassador Theron, President Carter began, we are grateful that you have traveled so far to meet with us. We appreciate the Council's offer of membership and the benefits you have described. Ambassador Theron smiled, clearly expecting to hear humanity's acceptance of the generous offer. However, President Carter continued, after careful consideration, Earth must respectfully decline Council membership. Humanity chooses to chart its own course among the stars. The silence that followed was deafening. Ambassador Theron's crystal eyes seemed to dim as she processed what she had just heard. For the first time in 10,000 years, a species had said no to the Galactic Council. I do not understand, Ambassador Theron said slowly. You would reject the protection and guidance of the Council. You would choose to remain isolated and primitive when you could join the greatest civilization in the galaxy. Admiral Bennett stood up beside President Carter. We appreciate your offer, but humanity has always valued its independence. We prefer to earn our place in the galaxy rather than accept it as a gift with strings attached. Ambassador Theron left Earth that same day, her ship disappearing into hyperspace as quickly as it had arrived. Behind her, she left a human species that had just announced to the galaxy that they would not bow to alien authority, no matter how powerful or ancient it might be. The news of humanity's rejection hit the Galactic Council like a thunderbolt. Ambassador Theron's ship had barely docked at Centauri Prime before emergency sessions were being called throughout the massive government complex. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Council faced something they had never encountered before: defiance. Administrator Kelthak of the Vrex Confederation sat in his office, staring at Ambassador Theron's report in disbelief. He had processed thousands of first contact situations during his long career, and they had always followed the same pattern. New species were discovered, contacted, and gratefully accepted into the Council's protective embrace. The idea that someone might refuse their generous offer had never even been considered. "This must be some kind of mistake," Kelthak muttered to his assistant. Perhaps the humans did not understand what they were being offered. But Ambassador Theron's report was clear. The humans had understood perfectly well, and they had chosen independence over security. They had politely but firmly told the most powerful organization in the galaxy that they preferred to make their own way among the stars. High Chancellor Vorthak of the ancient Selenite Empire was not taking the news well. His species had been among the founders of the Galactic Council, and in his 2,000 years of life, he had never heard of such an insult. The Selenites had built their empire on the principle that older, wiser species should guide younger ones for their own good. "These humans clearly do not understand their place in the natural order," High Chancellor Vorthak declared to the emergency session of the High Council. "They are an infant species that has barely learned to walk among the stars, yet they think they can refuse guidance from civilizations that are older than their entire evolutionary history." Defense Minister Quill of the militaristic Talon Republic saw the situation differently. His species had joined the Council through conquest rather than invitation, and he understood the value of strength. "Perhaps these humans are not as weak as we assumed," he suggested. "Any species bold enough to refuse us might be worth watching carefully." The Council's Department of Emerging Civilizations was in chaos. Dr. Zafina of Arcturus 7th, the Council's leading expert on primitive species psychology, could not explain what had gone wrong. Her models had predicted human behavior with perfect accuracy up until the moment of refusal. "According to our analysis, humans should have been eager to accept our protection," Dr. Zafina reported to the emergency committee. "They are a young species facing numerous challenges on their homeworld. Logic dictates that they should welcome help from superior civilizations." But Dr. Zafina had made a crucial error in her analysis. She had studied human history and noted their tendency toward conflict and competition, but she had interpreted this as a sign of primitive thinking rather than recognizing it as a strength. The Council's experts had completely missed humanity's deep-seated resistance to authority and their willingness to fight for independence even against impossible odds. Captain Ian Foster of the Council Enforcement Division was tasked with developing response options. His department had plenty of experience dealing with minor rebellions on member worlds, but they had never faced a situation like this. How do you force someone to accept help they do not want? The standard protocols assume we are dealing with member species who have already accepted Council authority, Captain Foster explained to his team. "We have no established procedures for handling an entire species that refuses to join us in the first place." The initial response was economic pressure. The Council controlled most trade routes between star systems, and they decided to make sure humanity knew what they were missing. Human ships were banned from approaching any Council member worlds, and Earth was officially designated as a restricted system that other species should avoid. The Council experts were confident this approach would work. Once humans realized they were cut off from galactic civilization, they would surely reconsider their foolish decision. Dr. Zafina updated her psychological profiles to predict that humanity would request new negotiations within 6 months. But the Council had made another serious miscalculation. Instead of weakening humanity's resolve, the isolation had the opposite effect. News of the alien blockade spread across Earth and every human colony, creating a wave of anger and determination that united the species like nothing before. President Carter addressed the Global Assembly in a speech that was broadcast to every human settlement in known space. "The aliens have shown their true colors," she declared. "They offer friendship with one hand while threatening us with the other. If they think isolation will break our spirit, they clearly know nothing about humanity." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every nation on Earth contributed to the largest military and scientific development program in human history. Dr. Kevin Stone led research teams working around the clock to understand and duplicate the alien technologies they had observed. Admiral Laura Hughes began planning defensive strategies for the inevitable day when economic pressure turned into military action. The unity was remarkable. Countries that had been rivals for centuries worked together toward a common goal. Corporations shared research that they would normally keep secret. Scientists collaborated across national boundaries without worrying about patents or profits. The alien threat had given humanity something they had never had before, a shared purpose that transcended all their old divisions. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched human activity with growing concern. Instead of the expected collapse, they observed massive construction projects on every human world. New ships were being built at an incredible rate, and human technology was advancing faster than anyone thought possible. "Their industrial capacity is remarkable for such a young species," reported intelligence analyst Zarak of the Monitoring Division. "They have increased their space fleet by 300% in just 6 months, and their technology is improving at an exponential rate." High Chancellor Vorthak was becoming impatient with the slow progress. "How long must we wait for these primitives to see reason? Perhaps it is time to demonstrate the consequences of defying the Council." Defense Minister Quill agreed, but he was also worried. "Our intelligence suggests that humans are more militaristic than we initially believed. If we choose to use force, we should be prepared for resistance." The decision was made to test human resolve without directly involving Council forces. The Korthak hegemony, a client species eager to prove their worth to the Council, volunteered to handle the situation. The Korthak were known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive expansion and their effectiveness at bringing stubborn species into line. Administrator Kelthak approved the plan with relief. Using a client species would allow the Council to maintain plausible deniability while still demonstrating their power. If the Korthak succeeded in humbling humanity, the Council could take credit for the outcome. If something went wrong, they could claim the Korthak had acted without authorization. The orders were sent to Korthak space within days. A battle fleet was assembled and given instructions to find human settlements and demand their surrender. The Korthak commanders were confident in their abilities and eager to show the Council what they could accomplish. None of them realized they were about to become the next victims of the Council's inability to understand what they were really dealing with. Humanity was not just another primitive species that could be bullied into submission. They were something the galaxy had not seen in 10,000 years. A people willing to fight for their freedom regardless of the odds. Captain Roy Bennett guided his exploration ship New Frontier through the asteroid field near Ross 128, searching for rare minerals that Earth's expanding fleet desperately needed. 18 months had passed since humanity rejected the Galactic Council's offer, and the isolation had forced them to become completely self-sufficient. Every resource they found meant more ships they could build and better weapons they could develop. Commander Leslie Parker monitored the ship's sensors from her tactical station. watching for any signs of danger. The past year had been filled with rumors of alien ships prowling the edges of human space, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Council tried something more direct than economic pressure. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Beth Williams, "I am picking up multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. They are not broadcasting human identification codes." Captain Bennett felt his stomach tighten as he moved to the main display. 3 large warships had appeared on their sensors, sleek and dangerous-looking with weapon ports that were clearly visible along their hulls. These were not exploration vessels like his own ship. Unknown vessels. "This is Captain Roy Bennett, of the Earth ship New Frontier," he transmitted on standard frequencies. "Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came back in heavily accented English that sounded threatening even through the translator. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council territorial restrictions. I am Commander Thax of the Korthak Hegemony. You will surrender your ship for inspection and prepare to be escorted to a Council facility." Commander Parker checked her weapons display and shook her head grimly. The New Frontier was an exploration ship with only basic defensive systems. Against 3 military vessels, they would not stand much of a chance in a straight fight. "Captain," whispered Chief Engineer Danny Walsh from his station, "I have been working on modifications to our shield system based on the sensor data we collected from that alien monitoring station. If you can give me 5 minutes, I might be able to give us some surprises." Captain Bennett bought time by responding to the Korthak commander. "Commander Thax, this system is not claimed by any member of the Galactic Council. We are conducting peaceful scientific research in unclaimed space. All space belongs to the Council," Commander Thax replied arrogantly. "Primitive species like yours exist only by Council permission. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. "Captain." Bennett realized they were facing the same choice humanity had been given months earlier: submit or fight. Like his species as a whole, he chose to fight. "Commander Parker, bring our weapons online. Danny, whatever you are doing back there, do it fast." The first Korthak ship opened fire without warning, sending energy beams that would have crippled any normal human vessel. But Chief Engineer Walsh had spent months studying alien technology and developing countermeasures. As the alien weapons struck the New Frontier's shields, the shield frequency began shifting and adapting to absorb the energy. "What the hell?" Commander Thax's voice crackled over the radio as his weapons seemed to lose effectiveness with each shot. Captain Bennett smiled grimly as he watched his ship absorb punishment that should have destroyed it. "Return fire, Leslie. Show them what humans can do when they put their minds to it." The New Frontier's weapons were not as powerful as the Korthak guns, but they had been modified with new targeting systems that Chief Engineer Walsh had developed. Instead of trying to overpower the alien shields, they found weak points and exploited them with surgical precision. The battle lasted 6 hours and became a deadly game of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Every time the Korthak tried a new tactic, the humans found a way to neutralize it. When the aliens modified their weapons to penetrate human shields, Chief Engineer Walsh adjusted the shield frequency again. When they attempted to jam human communications, the New Frontier's systems automatically switched to backup frequencies. Commander Betty Rodriguez, monitoring communications from the bridge, intercepted Korthak transmissions that revealed growing panic among the alien crews. They had expected to overwhelm a primitive human ship in minutes, but instead found themselves locked in combat with an enemy that seemed to learn and adapt faster than their technology could compensate. "Their confusion is working in our favor," Commander Rodriguez reported. They keep asking each other how our technology can be so effective when their intelligence reports said we were primitives. The turning point came when the New Frontier managed to disable the weapons on one of the Korthak ships. The alien vessel, suddenly defenseless, tried to retreat, but its damaged engines could not generate enough power for a hyperspace jump. Captain, Bennett faced a choice that would define the battle's outcome. Danny, can you rig a boarding pod from our emergency equipment? Chief Engineer Walsh grinned as he understood the captain's plan. Give me 20 minutes, sir. I can put together something that will get a small team onto that ship. The boarding action was led by Commander Parker and a team of 6 volunteers. Using improvised cutting tools and portable life support, they breached the Korthak ship's hull and fought their way to the bridge. The alien crew, trained for space combat but not hand-to-hand fighting, surrendered quickly when faced with determined human soldiers. Within an hour, the humans had control of advanced Korthak technology and access to their computer systems. Commander Rodriguez worked with the ship's AI to download tactical information about Korthak fleet movements and Council military strategies. What they found was both disturbing and encouraging. The disturbing news was that this was just the first of many planned attacks on human settlements. The Korthak had been given orders to systematically destroy human expansion and force Earth to accept Council authority. More fleets were already being assembled for larger operations. The encouraging news was that the Council seemed genuinely surprised by human resistance. Intelligence reports showed confusion and concern among Council leadership about humanity's rapid technological development and military effectiveness. They expected us to collapse after the first attack, Captain Bennett observed as he read through the captured files. Instead, we gave them a bloody nose and stole one of their ships. I bet that was not in their original plan. The remaining 2 Korthak ships retreated after their companion was captured, but not before Commander Thax transmitted a final threatening message. This is not over, humans. The Council has resources beyond your imagination. You cannot resist. Forever. Captain Bennett's response was broadcast on all frequencies for any alien ships that might be listening. Tell your Council that humanity does not surrender and we do not bow to bullies. If they want a fight, we will give them one they will never forget. The Battle of Ross 128 became the first human victory in what would become known as the Proxy War. News of the victory spread throughout human space, inspiring colonists and military personnel while proving that alien technology could be defeated by human ingenuity and determination. More importantly, the captured Korthak ship provided humanity with its first detailed look at galactic military technology. Engineers and scientists swarmed over the alien vessel, reverse engineering weapons, shields, and propulsion systems that would be incorporated into the next generation of human warships. Admiral Christopher Hughes received the battle report while coordinating defense plans from Earth orbit. The victory was encouraging, but he knew it was just the beginning. The Council would not give up after one defeat, and humanity needed to be ready for whatever came next. 3 years had passed since the first battle at Ross 128, and the galaxy was no longer the same peaceful place the Council had controlled for 10 millennia. 6 different client species had been sent against humanity, and all had failed to achieve their objectives. Each conflict had taught humans valuable lessons about galactic warfare while revealing the Council's weaknesses to anyone watching. Fleet Admiral Nicole Davis stood on the bridge of her flagship Defiance as it led a defensive formation around Proxima Centauri, humanity's first interstellar colony. Intelligence reports suggested that a massive Council client fleet was approaching, intent on finally crushing human resistance through overwhelming force. This time, they had assembled ships from 3 different species and equipped them with the latest Council military technology. Dr. Amanda Foster worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the orbital shipyard, making final adjustments to the new weapon systems that would soon be tested in combat. Over the past 3 years, her teams had reverse-engineered technology from 6 different alien civilizations, creating hybrid systems that combined the best features of each design. The results were weapons and defenses that no Council strategist had ever encountered before. "Admiral Davis," called out Captain Susan Turner from the intelligence station. "We are receiving coded transmissions from inside the approaching fleet. It looks like some of their ships are not entirely loyal to the Council." Admiral Davis was not surprised by this development. Human intelligence operations had been active throughout Council space for the past year, making contact with species that harbored resentment against the Council's authoritarian rule. The Valdari, an aquatic species that had always chafed under Council trade restrictions, had been secretly providing information about Council fleet movements. The Xerion Mining Collective, frustrated by Council monopolies on rare minerals, had been sharing technical specifications for Council weapons. The approaching fleet was massive, over 200 ships representing the combined military might of 3 Council client species. Their plan was simple: overwhelm the human defenses through sheer numbers and capture the Proxima colony as an example to other worlds that might consider defying Council authority. But Admiral Davis had a surprise waiting for them. Over the past 6 months, human engineers had been secretly installing new weapon systems on asteroids throughout the Proxima system. When the Council fleet arrived, they would find themselves facing not just human ships, but an entire system turned into a fortress. The battle began at dawn on the colony world below. Admiral Jack Miller, commanding the human Deep Strike Force, launched Operation Prometheus just as the Council fleet entered the system. While the enemy focused on the defensive formations around Proxima, Miller's ships jumped directly to the fleet's rear and began attacking their supply vessels and command ships. The Council commanders had never faced tactics like these before. In 10,000 years of galactic warfare, battles had always been formal affairs, with opposing fleets meeting in open space and exchanging fire until one side surrendered. The idea of attacking supply lines and command structures was completely foreign to their military thinking. "Admiral," reported Captain Tony Brooks from the tactical station, "the enemy fleet is breaking formation. They are trying to protect their support ships instead of pressing their attack on the colony." Admiral Davis smiled as she watched the Council fleet's confusion unfold on her display screens. Human military doctrine emphasized flexibility and innovation, concepts that seemed alien to their enemies. While Council forces followed rigid battle plans developed over centuries, human commanders adapted their strategies in real time based on changing conditions. The turning point came when the asteroid defense systems came online. Hundreds of hidden weapon platforms began firing on the Council fleet from unexpected directions, creating crossfire patterns that made it impossible for the enemy to maintain formation. Within hours, the massive invasion force was scattered and demoralized. But the most significant moment of the battle came when Ambassador Thurin herself contacted Admiral Davis directly. The Zephyrian diplomat who had first offered Humanity Council membership was aboard one of the attacking ships, observing the battle as a Council representative. "Admiral Davis?" Ambassador Thurin's voice crackled over the communication system. "I request permission to come aboard your flagship under a flag of truce. I have information that your people need to hear." Admiral Davis was suspicious but curious. What kind of information, Ambassador? The truth about the Galactic Council, Ambassador Theron replied. The truth about what they have done to my people and countless others across the galaxy. The meeting took place in Admiral Davis's private office while the battle continued to rage outside. Ambassador Theron looked tired and older than she had during first contact 3 years earlier. Her crystalline eyes seemed dimmer, as if some inner light had been extinguished. Admiral, Ambassador Theron began, I owe your species an apology. When I first offered you council membership, I believed I was doing you a favor. I thought the council truly represented peace and cooperation among civilized species. What changed your mind? Admiral Davis asked. Ambassador Theron was quiet for a long moment before answering. Watching your species fight for its independence reminded me of what my own people used to be. The Zephyrians were once explorers and innovators, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. We had art and music and literature that celebrated individual achievement and creative thinking. She paused, looking out at the stars through the office window. The council changed all of that. They convinced us that stability was more important than progress, that following established patterns was safer than trying new approaches. Over the centuries, we became administrators and bureaucrats instead of explorers and creators. Admiral Davis began to understand what the ambassador was really saying. The council does not just control territory and trade routes. They control the minds and spirits of their member species. Exactly, Ambassador Theron replied. And your people's refusal to submit has shown the entire galaxy that there is another way. Species that have been council members for millennia are beginning to question why they accepted limitations on their growth and development. As if to prove her point, reports began arriving from across the galaxy of member species withdrawing from council agreements and declaring independence. The Nexan Trade Union had severed economic ties with the council. The Draconis Republic had declared neutrality and opened diplomatic relations with Earth. Even some of the older member species were demanding reforms in council governance. The battle around Proxima Centauri ended in complete human victory, but more importantly, it marked the beginning of a galactic revolution. Ambassador Theron formally defected to humanity, bringing with her detailed information about council operations and the locations of other species ready to join the independence movement. Within 6 months, Admiral Roy Bennett found himself commanding a fleet of ships from dozens of different species as they approached Earth. They came not as conquerors or suppliants, but as allies in a new galactic order that valued independence and innovation over stability and control. High Chancellor Vorthok, facing rebellion throughout Council space, finally realized the magnitude of their mistake. In trying to force humanity into submission, they had awakened something far more dangerous than a single defiant species. They had ignited a desire for freedom that was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. The Galactic Council's greatest. Blunder had become the catalyst for its own transformation, proving that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in accepting authority, but in having the courage to say no to those who claim to know what is best for you.